Hi, this is Caroline with Equitopia, and today I have the pleasure of being here with Mary Morgan. Mary started out with dressage and ended up doing combined driving at an FEI level, and she is also a judge. So we've done a little podcast with her, which is also on the site, and it gets a little more involved in her journey to here. So today, anyway, I just want to talk a little bit about judging. Because Mary is a judge and she's a judge for combined driving, but again I think there's probably a lot of similarities, whether you're judging combined driving or dressage or probably dressage. So I'm just going to ask a few questions about judging so that she can give us insight from her perspective. So you set out to be a judge, and can you tell us a little bit about the process that you went through for becoming a judge? And you're a judge at the or judge?
I'm a little R judge.
R judge.
Right.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about the process by which you became a judge.
Well, you have to make an application to the American Driving Society. You have to have some experience as a driver. You have to list that, and you have to do some volunteer work and be involved with shows so that you know how shows work, how they're organized, and you have to know the rules. You have to take a test. And they test you on lots of rules and things like that, and so you have to know all that stuff so you get all the paperwork right and can help the organizers as needed. So you have to do that, and then you do a learner program. You enter the learner program, and as a learner you get judges to mentor you, and you go to shows and you assist at shows, and you work with the judges. So a lot of times that means that you're sitting with them, you may be scribing for them, or you may just sit and observe, and then you sort of discuss with them after the dressage test or whatever, how it was like, and they'll ask you what marks you may have given, or a lot of times you actually do your own marks. You have your own scribe, you sit off in a different place. You're not part of the show scores, but you mark all the drivers the way you would if you were a judge, and then you meet with your mentor judge afterwards, and you go over your tests, and they look and see if they look at your marks and your comments, and make sure that you said something nice about everybody and things like that. And so you do that for a while, and you have to get positive recommendations from several people, and then you can apply to get your little R, and that's how you pass it.
Wow. So Mary has, we met through Dr. Gert Heuschmann. She was, as I say, a dressage rider before becoming combined driving. So can you tell us a little bit about the objectives and how you were led to understand how the judging of the driving competition is supposed to be? What are they looking for in a driving horse in terms of, in relation to dressage?
Right, and just like ridden dressage, we have standardized tests. We have objectives for each level. We have training level, prelim level, intermediate, and advanced. The lower levels are handled through the ADS. The upper levels with the different advanced levels are handled through the USEF. And basically there's a written explanation of the movements. And on the test, it has an objective for the test, and those objectives change as you go up the levels.
And what kind of objectives are we looking for in terms of what people are looking for in the horse from a judging perspective that you were led to understand from your judging training?
Well, in the beginning, of course, you want the most thing that you want in a young beginning horse is you want a horse that moves freely forward, a horse that shows confidence. He should be accepting of the bit. There's not much requirement as far as lateral bend, but he should be in relatively good balance for a youngster, not falling over a shoulder one way or the other. He shouldn't be rushing. He should be a nice, supple, happy, going forward, accepting the bit kind of a guy. The movements are very easy as they are in ridden dressage. You have a little trot and halt, and maybe a couple steps back, and walk, and that's about it. But basically you want to show that that you've got a horse that's happy, has accepted being in a cart, and is obedient to doing basic movements.
So as you advanced in your judging career, did you find, from your understanding of dressage and the training, did you find that you were in agreements with the judges? Did you find that did you have any, or is there an understanding? Where do you think the judging situation is in terms of what the written rules are and what we're seeing out there, and are we talking about it enough? What give us an overview of your experience as a judge and
Well,
as someone who recognizes through supple rhythmic horse and what they should look like, which it sounds like is required in driving as well at the end of the day.
it is. Basically, the same things required of a driving horse is required of a riding horse, because dressage is how horses should move. It's the basic training of the horse, and it doesn't really change no matter what a horse is wearing. It can be a side saddle, it can be a western saddle, it can be a carriage. It's still the same movement. First thing I want to say is that judges try to do their best. For the most part, they're very supportive people. They try to do their best, and they, for the most part, really have the welfare of the horse and the driver in mind. However, it has been frustrating to me to find that many judges really don't know what to look for. Some judges judge mostly on geometry because that's what they understand. If the circle's round, they get a good mark. If the horse stops at X, they get a good mark. If the horse backs up 4 steps, they get a good mark. It doesn't matter that that horse is not going backward in diagonal pairs. It doesn't matter that his head is on his chest or that his head is in the sky. He went back 4 steps, so that was good enough. And this is a real problem, because I don't think that people understand the basics of dressage. The basics of dressage is not the movements. The movements were developed to help develop the proper movement, the proper gymnastics in the horse. And we need the horse to move properly to protect his body so that he stays comfortable and that he can do his job as an athlete and not get hurt.
So does the judging scorecard allow for that? Does it allow for marks for the quality, or is it mostly for the technical, or how is the training, or how do judges get trained for that if there is a weightedness?
Well, it's interesting that there's really not any guidance, I don't think, on how, like we're going 80% on the movement of the horse and 20% on geometry. There really isn't anything that is stated like that. I was just at a judge's clinic this last year that really brought that out, because we were watching in our practical session where we had a bunch of horses that were doing tests, and then we would all mark them and then we would discuss it. And that came out very clearly, because there were people that were saying, hey, this horse, there was a very incorrect horse, very hollow, presented very beautifully, very professional turnout, absolutely gorgeous horse, perfectly groomed. But he was very incorrect. He was very hollow, he was very stiff, he would come behind the bit or above the bit, but mostly was behind the bit all the time. And when we were asked, we were all in a group, and our instructor would say, who gave this horse a 7? And a bunch of hands went up. I gave the horse a 7. And she would say, why did you give that horse a 7? And someone said, they hit their marks perfectly. And our instructor brought out, it's like, because the horse really should have gotten a 5 at the most, because the horse was moving incorrectly. So even though the horse made its marks, the geometry is more supposed to be a modifier to the score. So the score, and this was the first time I'd actually heard it brought out really well with this instructor, this leader of our discussion there, was that the score should mostly, whatever that means, mostly be on the way the horse is moving and whether the horse is meeting the requirements of the level. and then the perfect round circle, the nose right at the letter. Those sorts of things are modifiers to the score. So if the horse really misses his halt at X, then you're going to drop that score. But most of your score should not be based on whether or not that horse stops perfectly at X, but that horse is in balance, confident, and controls the carriage properly as he stops at X, but not just that it's at X.
So you think really that in the judging circles, I'm assuming this moves up then towards the advanced, and when you get into advanced, it's probably more complicated because you have people who are used to winning, and you can't really go in there and start rejudging them on quality if they've been judged on technicality. Is that happening?
That is happening, and we have a problem. One of the most frustrating things that I have is that we have people that really don't understand how horses should be moving and how to keep their horses healthy through competitions, and how to develop a truly athletic horse. And so they work more on, say you're moving from prelim, which requires the horse to be on the bit and through the back, and to have moderate longitudinal and horizontal balance. So the horse should be moving nicely forward. There's a little bit of lengthening trot, so the horse should be demonstrating that he can lengthen his frame and push from behind in prelim. In intermediate, collection is introduced, medium trot is introduced, one-handed movements are introduced for the driver. Smaller circles are introduced to show better balance and coordination of the horse. The transitions become quicker and quicker, again showing the strength and balance of the horse. But we'll have people that their horses are not correct at prelim. They are not through the back. They are not really balanced. But they want to go move up the levels because they're tired of being in prelim. And so they take this horse that is now not correct at prelim, maybe doesn't do a correct lengthening, hasn't learned how to push from behind, so then he doesn't know how to lift his body up in collection. But they make him go slower for the collected trot, and for the medium trot, they still race him across the diagonal. But as a judge, at least to me, it's almost like there's the way the horse is going is weighted more. You should know more as you move up the levels. If you're going to be an intermediate or advanced driver, you need to know what it means to have your horse on the bit. You need to know what it means to have your horse through the back. You need to know what it means to have a horse in balance in the turns. And then you have to show that you're able to get your horse to do that. And so a horse that's maybe getting okay marks at prelim because he's been accurate and because he doesn't look too bad, you move that same horse that's really not correct at prelim up to intermediate, and now for me those scores are going to be much worse because that horse has not really improved the way he should have to be an intermediate. And unfortunately I have seen some just horrible drives at advanced. People decide that they want to be advanced drivers, so they enter their horse into advanced, and as I told you before, there's a foreign hand I watched one time. A man decided he wanted to be an advanced level driver, and in the collected trot, the horses all walked. This is advanced. This really should not be happening. This should not be happening.
So so the judging is also intermixed with that, because of course judges can only judge what they have coming in front of them, and if someone is coming into an intermediate and they clearly shouldn't be there, is there an opportunity for judges, or do you really think at that level they're just not understanding what they're seeing?
Well, some of this we don't have a lot of control over as far as who's entering the levels, because we don't have any clear guidance about like prerequisites. You know,
Okay.
so some of those things that happens in the upper levels, some of these drivers have actually have not gotten good marks all along the way. They've just progressed anyway, and we've
So they can
allowed
just
it to happen.
they can just advance.
They
can
can.
just choose.
They
Okay,
can just
all right.
choose.
Oh,
So
yeah, I
that's a
suppose same as
problem.
dressage, yeah. Okay.
But I wish that judges would talk a little bit more, that they would be willing to talk about the horse's movement a bit more. And I think that that's something that's lacking in some of our judges' education. And they really do try to do their best. And many of these people are very nice, very fun people to be around, but they don't have the sort of depth of understanding of horse biomechanics that I think that judges should
It's
have.
necessary.
Yeah.
Is
I
there
really
is
wish
there any
we saw more of
solution
it.
that you would think of? Or, I mean, if you were in some way, shape, or form in a position to try and influence judging, you know, what kind of steps would you take, or what do you think?
Oh, I would like judges to have a lot more instruction on proper biomechanics, and for them to understand how much damage is being done to horses that are going incorrectly,
Hi.
because we have so much help here. I'd like them to understand that that hollow drop back horse who's not using his hind end is actually hurting his body, and that we should not accept this. And that I don't care how pretty the carriage is, I don't care how flashy the horse is, I don't care how wealthy the owners are. If we're damaging that horse, we're in the wrong. And judges should be severely penalizing these horses that are incorrect at the levels. And I don't mean giving them a 6. You know,
Like a 4.
like a 4. You know, this four-in-hand that I judged, I think in penalty points, the score was 100. You know, and we have some provisions that say that if a horse gets an 85 or more in dressage, 85 penalty points or more, that it's up to the judge's discretion not to let them compete in marathon. Because of course a lot of drivers, they want to go do the marathon. They want to do marathon and cones. That's the fun stuff. That dressage, that's sucky stuff. They're just trying to get through it, you know. But I think that needs to be used more. That if people cannot do reasonably good dressage, so that the horses are reasonably protected in their bodies by being properly developed for the level that they're at, that those horses should not be allowed to continue to compete.
So who's in a position to try and redirect the judging program? I'm not even clear.
People at a higher pay level than I am, I'm afraid.
Okay.
There's a lot of influences in this. People that want to sell horses at the top levels. There's a lot of money involved, and just like in it's our politics in our level in driving, and a lot of these people just they are the movers and shakers of the driving world, and their personal businesses and preferences are being put forward. And the odd thing is that driving, as in many other sports, horse sports, are kind of hurting for spectators. And they keep wondering, and I often wonder why we don't have more spectators in combined driving. It's a very exciting sport. It's beautiful, beautiful. It's stunningly beautiful with the horses sometimes. But I think one of the things is for ridden dressage also, there's a fall off of interest. Is that I think there's a lot of people who intrinsically know when a horse is happy or not. They know when animals are happy. This obnoxious dog is enjoying his life. And
enjoying your life.
he may be causing us problem, but we intrinsically know that this dog's enjoying his life. And we see the same thing when we see happy horses. We know that they're happy. We know that they're comfortable. And when we see animals that are not happy and comfortable, we also know that. And I think that people have gotten so that they don't want to watch dressage. They don't want to watch dressage because it's not that pretty, and the horses don't look very happy. And
So the awareness is getting out there, maybe starting even with the public and the people who
Yeah,
who
I
are
think
observing.
it's more. I think it's more with the public and the observers, because I think that they're not so concerned about whether that horse is doing perfect piaffe, but whether that horse looks comfortable, and you just know that. And I've even had people say that to me, that they didn't like watching. I even had a judge say to me recently that she couldn't watch the marathon because the driving was too ugly. And that's a really powerful statement.
It is.
If our driving is so bad that even an understanding horse person that knows that it's okay to have horses work hard for us, even if someone like that says that they didn't want to watch it, what are the PETA people going to think?
Yeah.
And this is the death to our sport.
Well, yeah, we're here in
So it's a-
2020, and this is, I guess there's a big discussion about this just in general. So it is a hot topic, and I think it is coming to a crisis point as to whether the sport will continue or not. And hopefully, the message will get out there. At Equitopia, obviously, our job is to raise awareness and try and get the message out that developing a horse gymnastically and being a competitor doesn't have to be mutually exclusive. We should slow down. We should not rush things. We should allow both things to happen, and hopefully, it'll get there. Otherwise, I think it's going to be sad for all of us.
Yes.
And
it
we're trying to do it.
It absolutely can be done. It can be done.
Yes, it can be done.
It can be done. The horses can be happy, and they can work hard, and they enjoy it. They enjoy it, and they're our partners, and it's absolutely a fabulous thing.
Yeah, so let's turn it around, and thanks for tuning in. Hopefully you got some valuable insights from Mary during her talking about the judging and where it stands with combined driving, and we'll see you again soon. Awesome.